For more on President Obama's upcoming speech, I'm joined now by William Galston, a senior fellow of governance studies at the Brookings Institution. He's also a policy advisor to President Clinton, and he joins us now live from Washington. Bill, thanks for joining us here on Fast Forward. Much has been leaked already, of course, of the president's speech tonight. What about it really strikes you as surprising or is exactly what you expected?
Well, the White House some weeks ago faced a fundamental strategic choice. Would they go long and go big, or would they orient the speech towards measures that had in the past enjoyed some bipartisan agreement? And it appears, based on what we've heard, that they chose the second course, and clearly the administration is hoping that they're going to be able to use public opinion in order to bludgeon reluctant Republicans into supporting now what they've supported in the past.
Right. Opinion polls, though, various opinion polls suggest that the president doesn't have a lot of the nation's confidence at the moment when it comes to the economy. So how likely is this, do you think, is this plan going to be embraced?
Well, it's worth pointing out that although the president and congressional Democrats took a hit in the court of public opinion after the debt ceiling crisis, so did Republicans. Indeed, Republicans in Congress are even less popular with the American people than either congressional Democrats or the president. So there have been some signs that Republicans are thinking about areas of possible compromise. Both Speaker Boehner and Leader Cantor have issued more conciliatory statements in advance of the speech than one might have expected. Having said that, I think there's going to be a lot of resistance, and I don't expect the president to get everything he's asking for.
I also have to wonder, after having the, what was it, $850 billion stimulus plan in 2009 pushed through, $300 billion doesn't sound like that much. So if $850 billion didn't do much for the unemployment rate and the economy overall, why should we think $300 billion will?
Well, as you know, Lisa, there was a big analytical debate, which is still continuing, as to what the initial stimulus did or didn't achieve, and it depends on what kind of baseline you're measuring from. But I think the broader point is that even if this plan were enacted in full and kicked in beginning in the 1st of November of this year and spent out very quickly, let's say over 18 months, it still wouldn't have a huge effect over the next year, which is the politically relevant time horizon, on job creation and the overall pace of economic growth. I mean, there have been lots of back-of-the-envelope analyses of the plan in advance of its release, but it's hard to see that it would make a difference of more than a few tenths of a percentage point on the unemployment rate.
And then, Bill, there's also, I'm not sure, I'm sure you probably have read it without asking you prior to us going on air, but Treasury Secretary Geithner did a piece today, an op-ed for the Financial Times. We heard from White House Press Secretary Jay Carney. Both alluded to some surprises at tonight's speech. Is there anything big that you think is in the works that could really stimulate the economy at the moment?
Well, I don't know whether it's in the works, but the administration up to now hasn't dealt with the heart of the crisis. This is a financially induced downturn, not a cyclical recession. And the core of the financial crisis is the debt burden on households. And the core of the debt burden on households is mortgages that they can no longer afford to pay or which greatly exceed the value of their properties. The administration, by the president's own admission, has not yet mounted a successful mortgage-focused housing policy. And if they chose to grasp that nettle firmly tonight, that would be a big deal. That would be the lead item in the news. It would give the American people some sense that after the banks have been bailed out, somebody's paying attention to the problems of middle-class homeowners. And it would do more to stimulate consumption by relieving the household debt burden than any of the other measures we've been discussing.
Well, along those lines, it certainly seems like monetary policy has been more than accommodative for homeowners, right? We have interest rates at record lows. We have mortgage rates at record lows. What is getting in the way of a significant change in our housing outlook? What could the president do?
Well, many of the many of the people who currently hold mortgages are not eligible for refinancing under current regulations and are not benefiting from the lower rates that are available to prospective home buyers. I have long believed and argued that the administration ought to get lenders and creditors together to work out some sort of accommodation that would reduce not only interest rates but also principal owed in return for creditors getting an equity stake in future price appreciation of the currently deflated housing stock. That would have a huge effect both financially and psychologically. I am given to understand that the administration considered such plans as early as 2009, but rejected them for a combination of financial and political reasons. I happen to believe, and I share the views, for example, of Sheila Bair, that the administration was not very imaginative and not very courageous in dealing with the housing crisis as compared to, say, what it did for the auto industry. But the housing crisis is more important for the future of the economy even than the auto industry was.
All right, Bill, I do appreciate those comments, and I will certainly be listening for any mention of something on the housing front. I do appreciate you joining us, Bill. We got to leave it there. Bill Galston, a senior fellow at Brookings Institute. Well, tonight